Hey, let me ask you a question. If you've got several million people in uniform, some of them injured, some of them not, many of them recognized for valor, many of them serving their country, what do you do with them when the war is over? And this is not an academic question. This is a question that General and then later President Dwight D. Eisenhower had to answer. You have all these people in uniform. So let's look back at the Great War, World War I. World War I, these men came back from Europe and they went back to their old jobs. The women and the minorities, particularly the African Americans who had taken those jobs, were pushed out to make room for the returning soldiers. We go into a major recession, which lasts for a little while. Then things start getting better. We talked about the 1920s. Only the 1920s were never as prosperous as we'd like to think on the television shows or on the movie. And the Great Gatsby lies to us. Okay, say that up front. All right. But we didn't want that to happen. And there's this overarching terror, absolutely keep you up at night fear, that once the war is over, that we're going to fall back into a Great Depression. It's pretty normal to have a recession after a war where unemployment rises. Again, all these people coming back from the war and taking their old jobs back or not taking their old jobs but still needing something. So there is this big question of what do we do with the men and some women who served in the war. And so the answer to that was something called the Serviceman's Readjustment Act. And there's several different parts. I'm only going to hit a couple parts that I think are the most important. One of the big parts was that it created within the Veterans Administration a loan program, a housing mortgage program basically, for returning veterans, and called the Veterans Housing Act. And what that does is it provides low interest loans for veterans to buy houses. Now, why this is important? Well, because there's more veterans returning than there are existing houses. So what's going to happen? We've got to build. And so this is going to lead to the housing boom. And this is going to lead to a lot of jobs. People are going to come back from the war because housing is being built so quickly. They're going to be able to go into construction jobs if that is what they wanted to do. So in essence, by offering low interest loans, they're stimulating the economy and helping out the servicemen who are coming back, because then they'll be able to go and build their own housing and have a place to live. But probably the big one is called the GI Bill, or the Montgomery GI Bill. And this is going to provide money for the returning servicemen to go to college. All right? And this is going to be really important for a lot of reasons. Number one is that people who are in college are oftentimes not part of the workforce. And so that helps to keep our unemployment numbers down, because a person is going to college, they're studying, and maybe they even have a little bit of an income because of the GI Bill. And so that is a person who's not going back into the factory and creating an unemployed person in the process. And they themselves, even though they're not working, wouldn't necessarily be classified as unemployed because they're going to school full time. The other thing is that if anything came out of World War II, it proved that the country with the best technology is often going to be the winner. And for example, we built the best airplanes, we built the best munitions eventually, and certainly we built the fastest munitions, and we built the atomic bomb, which was at its time the ultimate weapon. And so technology, like for example the B-29 that delivered the Enola Gay, the B-29 that delivered the atomic bomb over Japan, had radar-guided guns. Instead of having people in the back, trying to find the Japanese fighters that are trying to shoot it down, it's all done with radar, and they would aim themselves. It was a pressurized cabin. It was able to fly at a higher altitude. It was far and away the most technological bomber in existence during its time. And in fact, it was so technological that the Soviets, when they got a hold of one, just reverse engineered it and built their own. They called it a T-4, a Tupolev 4, which was really just a B-29 with a Russian stamp on it that said, made in Russia. And so that technology, well, where was all this technology? Where were these new wave of engineers and scientists going to come from? Well, they were going to come from universities. And so the government invested heavily in technology that would, or into engineering and science programs that would lead to advances in technology, for example, in computer technology, but especially aerospace technology. They invested heavily into the aerospace and things that had defense industry applications. And so by having these veterans go into the classroom and go to college, then you're creating that next group of engineers and that next group of scientists who are going to continue the work of keeping America the most technologically advanced country at the time. In addition to that, even if they don't go into the sciences, they're coming out and they are prepared to become entrepreneurs. They start their own businesses. They go into existing businesses. They go into management. They bring new innovation. They bring information and know-how into that business. And so we become, in a span of a single generation, the most educated country in the world, in large part because we pay our soldiers after they've done their soldiering to now become students. And so this is, of course, is continuing on. It's been changed and modified over the years, but the core of it is still basically the same, with the same purpose of you're going to go to college and then you're going to use that information that you've acquired in college to benefit your country a second time. First, you serve in the military, and the second, you serve as a civilian, making your community, state, and nation stronger because of your education. All right. So these are just two of several different initiatives that are put into place to help servicemen adjust back to the United States and to adjust back to civilian life. All right. Now, interestingly enough, in Texas, especially, this is also going to lead to one of Texas's early civil rights movements, in that the American Soldiers Forum is going to be formed primarily to help Hispanics. There's going to be a Texan, Hispanic, who serves as a doctor during World War II, comes back and notices that a lot of soldiers who are Hispanic are having trouble getting their VA benefits. And so he's going to start an organization, which is still in existence today, to help Hispanics to claim those benefits, or those benefits that they've earned through their service to their country through the military. And so it's the American GI Forum. And it's primarily for persons of Hispanic descent. But this is going to be a kind of one of the more successful early civil rights organizations as well. So we see a lot of things going on here. We're starting to see, of course, all this education, all this housing is going to lead to a boom, which is going to be another video here in a minute. And it's also going to lead to some beginning civil rights action on the part of Hispanics, which oftentimes we talk about civil rights, we talk about African Americans, sometimes American Indians, but Hispanics also had their own path towards civil rights and their own goals and challenges in the process. And so this was just one of those. So, all right, so in conclusion, the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, we wanted to make sure we did not fall back into the Great Depression. And so one of the ways that they did that was by providing benefits and assistance to the returning veterans, the returning soldiers. After having defeated the forces of tyranny, now they could come and build America. So, till then, have a great day.